Okay, what is the difference between a synchronized block and a synchronized method?
Suppose we have some certain code, like suppose we have a few codes which I want to make a synchronized. So in that situation, we'll prefer the synchronized block, because once we enter inside the synchronized block as well as method, so it will take the complete log. Sorry. So complete log concept is there. So for that, actually, if suppose a few piece of code which I want to make a synchronized, in that situation I will go for synchronized block. And if I have lots of code which I want to make a thread shape, which I want to make a synchronized, then I will go for the method, synchronized method.
Okay, so when should we choose array list and linked list over one another?
See, the when we have, suppose we have some certain data, like array is fixed in the size. So when I am very much sure that it should be it is a certain data which I want to store inside the array, and array will fixed in the size, and then after that it cannot grow automatically, like it cannot resize. So for that situation, I will go for array. And the array list array list, when we go for array list, like suppose we have a fetching the data, when we have a storing the data, in that situation we'll go for the array list, and linked list will go for the manipulation of the data. So
Yeah.
for that I will go for the linked list, but both are maintaining.
So what is immutable class?
Immutable class, a class should be a final, that which we cannot extend. And then after that all member variables should be a private, um, which we cannot access from the outside. Private final should be all member variable. Then after that a gate method should be there. So like everything should be protected, means everything should be secure. So that is a immutable class. Like once we create the object of the immutable, like we cannot change the value the runtime.
Okay, so singleton class.
Double check locking.
Yeah.
See, the single thread, a singleton, I know. Actually, I know how to create. What is the concept of the singleton? I have created also, but double check. See, we can make a thread shape by using the synchronization.
Yeah.
And we can make a method as synchronize, and that will become a when I will where I will return a method, so that method will become a synchronize. So that will become a thread shape. Like suppose we have a class, then after that we have to take a private constructor, then after that we have to declare a private static variable, then we have to take a static class, and that class should be a synchronization, which will inside the method, like will check, will have the condition like object double equal to null, then return the same object. And yes, so that can make a thread safe. And by using the we can protect from the clone as well. We can create another object by using the clone. So for that, actually we have to implement the clonable interface. We have to override the clone method. We can return the same object, as well as we can return the exception. We can throw the exception as well. So that is the process. But yeah, double check locking, actually I'm not sure about that.
Great. So can you tell me what is the use of at override annotation?
At override annotation, where I am using override annotation, actually I didn't use anywhere.
Do you know what is method? What is method overriding?
Yes, method overriding I know, but at the rate overriding annotation I never used anywhere.
Override, not overriding. Override annotation.
No, actually I didn't use anywhere, so no idea.
So what version of Java you are using currently?
Java 8.
Java 8. So this override annotation we use just to avoid the compile time error. So suppose if we don't want to override, I mean accidentally override something, or if we forgot to override any method, so that time we use it. Okay, can you tell me what is the access level of protected access modifier?
Yes, it's protected. Yes, basically we are using the protected modifier for the private and protected. So protected modifier will accessible in the package across the package inside the class as well as inside the package whatever the class is available. So all will access I think
Okay,
protected.
and what about the subclass?
Subclass will access the protected that you are asking.
Yeah, can we access or can we like not?
Protected, yes, I think we can access protected.
Okay,
Uh,
okay, and what about the default access modifier? What will be the scope or access level of default access modifier?
Default basically we can use anywhere in the class. So basically we can access directly, and basically the default is basically mostly using in the inside the functional interface. So I have used the default access modifier inside the functional interface only.
No, I
So
think you confused with the default method.
this is the default method I'm telling.
I'm asking about the access modifier or access specifier. So default means we are not using anything like public, protected, private. If we don't use anything, that will be default, considered as default.
Yes, 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 yes. If I suppose I'm writing the void and method M1, so it will become a default method.
Okay, so suppose a method is throwing a file not found exception in a superclass. Okay,
Okay.
so can we override this method in subclass by throwing IOException?
File not found exception is if I'm using the IO exception, then if I'm calling that method, then we have to cover it. We have to catch like yes, it will compile.
It will compile.
It will compile, but
And why?
yes, it will compile. But when I'm calling, when I will call the overrided method, which is throwing the IO exception, then we have to cover. Means we have to catch it that exception, IO exception.
Okay.
When I'm calling like object, yeah, dot like suppose there is one method M1, then if I will call the M1, then we have to catch it that in the calling method.
Okay, so in this file not found exception and IO exception, which one is the subclass exception and which one is the superclass exception?
See, the scenario is like throw while exception, error, exception having the runtime exception, and all its child class. Like there are lots of child class of the unchecked exception, and then after that, few is the checked exception like SQL and IO exception, child class, file, and IO. I think IO is a super class. Then after that, file.
Okay,
No,
IO
no,
is
file.
superclass.
Wait, file and input output and file. Actually, I'm getting confused.
No problem, no
Which one
problem. Yeah.
will be a
Uh,
super? Actually, I didn't notice that.
okay, so can you tell me, are these checked exception or unchecked exceptions? These two?
IO exception is the checked exception,
Okay,
and file not found.
it is also checked exception. Can you hear me? Both the exceptions are
Yes,
checked exception, and IO exception is a super class exception and file not found is subclass exception. Okay,
yes.
so
File
as per
not found.
the
It. Okay.
overriding rules, subclass method can only narrow down the scope of exception. Means overriding method can only throw the same exception or subclass exception. Okay, so in my question, the superclass exception was throwing file not found exception and the subclass was throwing IO exception. That is not possible because in the subclass we are kind of subclass in the subclass method we are kind of throwing the method which is kind of not in the
Super
hierarchical way.
exception.
Yeah, it is not narrowing down. It is like we are using superclass exception in that. IOException is superclass exception of file not found.
IO is the super, and then like a parent to child will come.
Yeah.
So that is the hierarchy. Yes, yes. So that is the hierarchy of the exception. Like first will come priority on the parent, then after that child, and then child. So like that is a hierarchy. But I'm getting the confusion of like which one is the super and which one is the child.
Okay.
So
Okay. No problem.
yes, yes.
Okay. Okay. So you know about the singleton class, right?
Yes, yes. Very well.
Okay. So suppose in singleton class, in the concept of singleton class, we only have one instance, one object of that class. Okay. But what if I clone that object? And if I clone that object, that means I'm getting another object of the same class.
Yes.
So how you can avoid that situation?
So for that, actually, what we'll do, I will override the clonable interface. Then after that, I will implement the clonable interface, and we can override the clone method. Then after that, we can return the same object as well as we can throw the exception as well. Suppose if the calling the clone method, we can throw the exception like no, I don't want, I'm not giving the permission to create another object.
Yeah.
So that can also be done.
Okay. Okay. So suppose if we don't override hash code while using an object in hashing collection, so what will be the impact if we don't override hash code method? So what will be the impact?
Then impact like see the as per my knowledge like collection and all its implementation class like all internally overrided the equals and hash code method, but we can explicitly also we can override. But see, suppose in the collection like suppose in the map when I am going to put the data, so as a key value pair when I have given the key value, so in that situation it will generate a hash code which will store inside the bucket and all. So if I am not as per the hash map, like will not allow any duplicate, will not allow the duplicate. So internally, I think internally it will generate a hash code which will store, but we don't need to override the hash code. So sometime few things will happen like two key having the same hash code, that can happen. So if I want to make a more secure, which I don't want to store the duplicate key inside the hash map, so that for that actually we can override the hash code as well. Okay. So that is the one scenario which can be possible. So for that, for avoiding that such situation, for that we can override the hash code and make a perfect.
Okay. So in the case of Hashmap, in Hashmap keys, what data type you will prefer to use?
Key, anything like it can be a string, it can be object, anything can be.
Okay.
It can be integer.
Yeah, it can be object, but which type of which data type you will choose? You will choose to prefer. What will be the best? Yeah.
See, the key can be anything like it can be integer, it can be a string, it can be object, can be anything. But internally it will generate a hash code which is a integer number. So that will store inside the memory area like bucket. So anyhow, if I'm storing if I'm giving the any key like as a object, as a string, as a integer, anything, finally it will internally it will convert inside the integer which is hash code, the random integer number.
Okay. Yes. So suppose in your project, in your code, you are creating a hash map, and I am giving you some options to choose as a key so that you can get a better performance. One could be integer, one could be boolean, sorry, not boolean, one could be integer, one could be a double, and other could be string. So what data type you will choose between them?
Yeah, I will choose if the option inside the option, if there is an integer, then I will prefer the integer.
Integer.
So based on the requirement, yes.
Okay.
So based on the requirement that I can choose integer, double as well as string. So anything can happen. There is no any restriction that you can give only this. So there is no any restriction. We can, as per the requirement, we can give any as a key, anything as a key.
Okay, but can you give me any example of immutable class
Yes,
which are present
yeah.
in Java?
String is a immutable class. All wrapper class is a immutable class.
All wrapper classes are immutable,
Yeah,
or just
integer,
string
long.
is immutable?
No, all wrapper classes.
Are you sure?
Yes. String and all wrapper class.
Okay, so suppose you have created an inner class, okay, and inside that inner class you have some variables, you declared some variable. So to access those elements, do you need to create an object of that inner class in your outer class?
Accessing the member variable.
Yeah,
Inside the inner class, I'm going to access from the outer class.
yeah.
Inner class member variable, I'm going to access from the outer class. Actually, I didn't try, so I'm not sure about that.
Okay, no
Because
problem.
it's a practical knowledge, so actually I didn't try anywhere.
Okay, no problem. Have you do you know anything about threads?
Yes, thread. Ultimately.
Okay, so what are the ways to create thread?
There is a two way. We can extend a thread class. We can implement a runnable interface.
And which one is the preferred?
Runnable interface.
Okay, so do you know anything about callable interface?
Yes. Actually, callable interface I have used in the JDBC, like while calling the procedure and function. So in that situation, I have used the callable for calling the procedure and function callable.
Okay, so what is the difference between callable and runnable?
I think there is a read write runnable. Inside the runnable, we can read the data, and callable we can read and write the data.
And what is the difference between sleep and wait method?
Sleep basically we can sleep the particular amounts of time a thread. Suppose we have a thread and which I want to sleep for the some amount of time. So for that actually we can use a sleep method. And wait is also for suppose we have a two thread and which I one thread I want to make a wait. So that can also we can go through the wait method.
Okay, so are you
But
really
wait will work
comfortable
on.
with threads? I won't ask any thread question. If you are not, you can clearly tell me that you haven't worked or you don't have you are not comfortable with threads. That is
Yes.
okay. That is
No,
okay.
I'm comfortable. You can ask.
Okay, so what is the way to create a thread pool?
By using the executor framework.
Yeah.
Yes. So see the one scenario before few year back. Actually, I one scenario like I have to send a bulk EPAN through the email. So in that situation, I have implemented like a executor framework. Like I have defined the number of thread in the top, and then after that I have used the fixed size thread pool. So I have created the object. Then I have passed that number of thread, and then after that I have submitted the task. So that I have done before few year back
Okay.
for the scenario.
Okay. Okay. So are you comfortable with MySQL, Oracle, or MySQL, or any other type
Yes,
of
yes,
database you have worked with?
yes,
MySQL.
MySQL.
Okay. So what is execute method and execute query method, and there is one more execute update? How they are like different?
In the SQL,
Yeah.
execute and
Execute.
execute update.
Yeah.
It is in JDBC, no? Execute.
But you have
See,
worked with MySQL. That means you you are using them with any like Java, right?
Yes, yes. See, the execute is like a execute method will work for the runnable, like we read operation, and submit method will go for the runnable and callable as
No,
well.
no, execute and submit are different. These are different. That one is different case. That one is for executor framework, and these execute and submit are used to submit the task. Okay, to a thread
Yes,
pool.
yes, yes, yes.
So that is for executor
Mm-hmm.
framework. That is completely different. I'm talking about in terms of JDBC or in terms of GPA, ORM, anything you can call. In that you
Mm-hmm.
are trying to execute query. Okay, so you will pass some queries
Mm-hmm.
in these method. Okay, so there is
Yes,
execute
yes, yes.
method, there is execute update method, then there is execute query method.
Yes, yes. So, like SQL execute query, like suppose we have created the SQL object, create a SQL object in the Hibernate. So in that situation, we have to call the execute query, and then after that execute update. Suppose we have a update statement. So we have written a query, then we have set the parameter, a specific parameter for the particular properties, particular variable, and for the particular column we have set the data. Then that we have to execute update. We can call the method. Suppose we have a, select query. Suppose we have some select query. For that, actually we have given the query, and then after that we have called the execute method. Then it will fetch the data,
Okay, so I think
as
I
well as
have,
we can save the data.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So I think I have done from my side. Do you have any questions?
No, actually, yeah, it was nice. Lots of logical questions. Yes, yes. A few things I was getting the confusion. Like definitely, I will try. So yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, no problem. Okay,
Yeah.
there is one suggestion by my side that